So is traveling a scam? Let me just say, right, I'm not being ungrateful, but I have had the privilege of traveling extensively, many cities, many countries. And it's funny because I probably came to this conclusion because of that mere fact, right? That I've been around. I've traveled quite extensively. And because of that, I sort of came to this realization that, like, wait a minute, this feels very much like a scam. A lot of the places that I went to, um, it's like one of those things where you think to yourself, right? You see all these images and these reels and these videos of these places, and you have this perception of what it's supposed to feel like and be like when you're there. No one tells you it's going to smell like shit, or or that the grifts are coming, or things of that nature, right? No one tells you the actual feeling of being there, right? They just highlight the positives, right? And that's pretty obvious, right? But the thing is, in my mind, I thought that, like, the coffee was going to taste better, the food was going to taste better, that I was somehow going to feel a different way. And yeah, sure enough, I mean, there was definitely like the adrenaline of being somewhere different, of being lost, of seeing different people, of seeing different ways of living. And definitely I appreciate that for sure. I'm not taking that for granted whatsoever. But I think after a while you start to realize a lot of these things are the same. It's not like the lamb is going to taste any better or the espresso is going to be any tastier. um and you start to feel like you're doing the same thing in different places. Like, there's only so many beaches I can go to, there's only so many mountains I can climb, there's only so many restaurants I can go to, so many cafes I can lounge at. All these things start to feel the same in different places. Yes, they kind of take on sort of the aesthetic of the location, but regardless, like, global culture has kind of uniformed everything, and everything just feels like cookie cutter in many ways. And it's kind of hard to find anything real happening a lot of times, just because everything's so curated for the tourist. Like, even just trying to get away from that mold, like, is difficult. It's difficult because everything's pre-programmed, everything is sort of written in stone. And I think after a while, it's just like, man, everything feels the same. It's gotten to the point where I've reached a conclusion that I only want to go to places that I really want to go to now. I don't want to just travel for the sake of traveling, because, like I said, a lot of places end up feeling very similar to other places. And like I said, it is a very privileged position to be in, right? To say, oh, I've been to all these places and they're all the same, right? But the reality is, traveling does feel kind of like a scam, especially now. It's not like where you go to a place, there's this whole idea that, like, uh going to a different country is like a different time period, right? They do things differently around there. But that isn't necessarily the case, because of the way and speed in which information and technology have kind of traveled. Everything kind of just feels the same now. And like I said, I've chosen to decide to travel to places that I've already been to, because I know I'm going to really thoroughly enjoy them. And I'm going for that reason, right? Because I know what I'm getting myself into. And I just really like the feeling and the energy that I get from going to these places. So I'm just going to be a repeat traveler now. I don't think I'm going to be going to different places anymore, just because I said I've reached that point where it's not going to be that different. Like, you can only go to so many plazas and squares, right? And you can only go to so many different bars and restaurants and cafes, and even just like the typical spots, right? The architecture, right? Or the nature, right? That stuff is all beautiful. I'm not saying it's not. And it's not like I don't appreciate those things, but it gets really easy to kind of take it for granted, right? There's only so much beauty you can see without starting to feel like you're in the same place, regardless of what country you're in. And I think that if anyone's in that position where they think that traveling is somehow going to change them, it sure does. It sure definitely gives you an appreciation for where you are. Like, at least for me as an American, it definitely feels like you go to these other places and you realize, like, man, like, America is one of the easiest places to be successful in, right? In comparison to other places in the world. Like, I would talk to waiters and waitresses in other places, and they're grinding for like 400 or 500 euros a month. And I'm just thinking, like, damn, like, how do people survive? Right. And here I just feel like the game is on easy mode, right? Relative to that. But then also on the other side of it, I become a little envious. I go to these places. Let's say I go to like, I went to Bari in Italy, Southeast Italy, and I couldn't help but be a little envious. And part of me was very sad that I didn't have the life they were living. It was like everyone was outside, everyone was socializing, everyone was just having a good time, and I was like, whoa, like I've never seen anything like this in the U.S. So I guess that's the beauty of travel, right? Is that you kind of get some perspective and you see what it is that works for you, what what speaks to you, what environment you most likely want to be in long term or short term. But at least it'll give you that perspective, right? But regardless, if you think that traveling is somehow going to change your life, I don't necessarily think that it will. I think what you'll end up realizing is that you just need to find a place that you feel that would that's going to get the best out of you. What type of environments really pull out of you? Like for me, one thing I realized, like, yeah, I definitely want to be somewhere where I can do my outdoor workouts, calisthenics. That's a fundamental thing for me. So when I do move, in the event that I do, it's going to be somewhere where I can do that. And then the other thing I always, obviously, I want is somewhere that I could be close to the ocean, to be able to just kind of get that sea breeze. So things like that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for obviously a safe place naturally. So from that perspective, like I said, I think it has helped me, but nevertheless, I did come away with, and I still hold still to the idea that traveling as a sort of reason for being is a scam for sure. And if travelers are not telling you that, these like I see a lot of these guys that do like these travel vlogs, it's kind of numbing because they're kind of doing the same thing everywhere they go. Yes, their characters, yes, they make things interesting, but these guys can't tell me that they're really comfortable eating all this different koi slap everywhere they go and constantly sleeping in different beds and different time zones and having to adjust to all that and being stinky and just it's just not comfortable after a while. It starts to take a toll on you, I think, right? Um, so I think that's like the biggest dilemma, right? If you're gonna be traveling as sort of a long term thing. But like I said, do what you want at the end of the day, but just make sure that you're aware of why you're traveling, right? For what purpose? Because like I said, if you're like me and you're looking to somehow, I don't know, you're like an alchemist, you're out here trying to find gems. It may not be what you're looking for, is all I'm saying. And I think it's probably better to find places that you feel most comfortable in, and rather than going everywhere thinking you're going to find something new every time. Because I think after a while, you'll start realizing places are generally the same. Um, but like I said, I remain hopeful that I'll, be able to find somewhere else I want to move to in the long term. But in the meantime, I will continue to visit the places that I've been to that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed. And so I leave you with that, and I'll see you on the next.